O horn-decked beast from higher sphere delivered, take root inside the tower's sculpted keepers, and perched within, we beg of thee, rise.
Hello, welcome back to PlayStation Access. My name's Dave, and I'm joined today by an extremely excitable Rosie.
Hello!
Who has been playing the new Elden Ring DLC, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, and is extremely excited to tell us all about it. I'm very excited to listen, but I do have a question right from the start, Rosie.
Yeah?
Which is maybe a little bit nuts and bolts, but how do you access the DLC?
So you access the DLC in the main game. You have to defeat Radahn and Mohg.
No.
Yeah, oh no. And then once you've defeated Mohg, opposite him or at the end of the arena you fight them in, there's like a cocoon with a hand that's leaking out of it.
Right.
And you can tell if you've activated the DLC because there's like a knight character who's standing by it.
Yeah.
So you interact with the hand and then that's it. You get teleported to the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC.
And so is it a completely separate map?
Yeah, so it's an entirely new map, and also when you're running around in the world, you can access the base game at any time. Just swap the map, and you can fast travel in and out of the Shadow of the Erdtree. So it's really convenient for that as well. But the first thing I want to say is, like, when you first enter the Shadow of the Erdtree, immediately I was like, oh, it's beautiful. Once again, it's so beautiful. It's the first view you see. First of all, there's loads of like ghostly graves on the floor, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of ghostly graves. But then when you look at the sky, you've got this giant tree. There's a big theme of trees in Elden Ring, but there's a giant tree, and it's got this beautiful like blanket effect. And every time I look up, whether it's nighttime or sunset or like nice and foggy in the day, I always look up and I mean, if it's foggy, I don't really see the sky much, but when I do see that blanket texture, I'm like, oh, that's so pretty. I've taken many pictures of the sky.
Yeah.
And also, it just has this wonderful, I want to say like an autumnal feel, like the grassy things having the lovely orange tinge.
Yeah.
And I've made a whole video on Elden Ring, how I think it's beautiful because of its use of color in this game, which is very grim and it's very foggy areas and stuff. It still manages to be one of the most vibrant games. Even at nighttime, it's when it gets really dark, just having your little lantern just to be that little glow of orange, once again bringing in the orange, yellow and red sort of tones coming into it. It's just stunning, which is exactly what Elden Ring was, but this is just even more of that with new environments to explore. And also, just speaking of the world, it is huge. So
really?
for this video, I'm only going to talk about so you know when you're running around in Elden Ring, you can find a map. So
Yes.
I'm only going to talk about the first map you find, just to save from spoilers and things like that. But already, when I got that map, I thought, oh, this is like, I can explore this area. And I think I've easily spent 10 hours at least in just this first area.
Oh, wow.
Probably because I've also been dying to bosses and things like that, as you do. But there's loads of things you can find. There's weapons which you can only find in the DLC, so you've got whole new weapons you can experiment with, new armor you can find, new NPCs that you can interact with as well. And there's one I love called Moore. I love Moore. He likes collecting things, and he's just so lovely. So yeah, you've got a whole new story as well. You're following they say like you're following Miquella's footsteps, which is when you see these crosses. You might have seen them in the trailer, but think of them as like runes, but they stick out the ground and I just think they look really pretty.
Yeah.
So you're finding these around the world, which is adding more to the story and the lore of the DLC. But, the DLC, I'd say it's kind of set alongside the main game.
Yeah.
So it's not as if you have to finish the main game to understand what's going on here. It focuses on a character called Miquella, who is mentioned in the main game as you're playing it. So in terms of the story, it's its own thing, I'd say.
Yeah.
But regardless, there's, as I've mentioned, loads of caves and little extra areas you can find, which of course have their fun little extra bosses and things you can encounter. As you're running around, you get invaded, and it's just... I love that doing this thing as well. When you run up to the edge of the map or of the world, when you look down, you can see that there's more you can explore.
Right.
I'm someone who likes to go around the edge of the map and be like, are there any secrets, any items I can pick up?
Yeah.
And then when I got there, I was fully just like, oh, there's a whole area down there, and I know that I can go there because I see like one of these giant flame cage monsters like walking around down there. So it's a huge map, loads of different environments to explore. You've got I mean, even in the first area, I've explored also this tower settlement, which has got loads of little gloomy, broken down villages and run down towers and sort of like, think of like the castles in Elden Ring, you know, just that big sort of structure. So I've explored an area like that. Just the forests in general, when you see bits of broken down rubble and stuff around it as you explore, or little camp settlements, and this really piercing red lava area as well. So there's been so many different kinds of environments, different kinds of colors I've seen and stuff. So essentially this is just me reiterating that this map is very big and it's stunning and beautiful. But I know everyone really wants to get to know what the difficulty of the DLC is like.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I will say, because you're asked to defeat Moog, there is a way in the main game that you can just take a quick path and get to Moog. However, I mean, when I was just playing Elden Ring without thinking about, I want to specifically get to this boss, I didn't get to him until quite end game. You know, near the later half of it. So I will say the DLC, if you're just gonna try and do those bosses, I will say you might have a bit of a hard time with it, but it does ease you into the experience of Elden Ring again if you've, let's say, got an end game save and you're coming back into it after not playing it since release. Because when I first entered the DLC, I thought I used my end game save like literally just before the final boss, and I thought, oh yeah, look at me, I'm my end game character, and I'm now level 200. I'm very happy with that. But so I was like, here I go, I'm really strong. And there are definitely enemies that you can just get in a couple of hits, but then Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree reminds you it's Elden Ring. So you will get enemies that, when they group up on you, they really can like stagger you and knock you out from silly mistakes if you just get too overconfident. And there's these, like I've mentioned, the giant cage creatures, which are like all cagey and on fire and stuff. I thought those were going to be a boss, but they're not bosses. They're just standard enemies.
Oh God.
And as you approach them, I just swung at its legs with my sword, and it just did a smidgen of damage. And immediately I thought, oh, this is going to be a long fight.
I remember that so well from Elden Ring. Well, and just the Souls games. It's so funny when you come across something big and you think, is this a boss? And it's not. And then, like you say, that first hit, and you're looking at its health bar to see, like, how much damage did I do? And you're like, oh God, nothing. I did nothing.
Because then I thought with the fire cage monster, I thought, okay, so there's going to be a way that I can stagger it and then get the vital point once it's fallen down. But this enemy, it does this really brutal attack as well, where it throws fire at you and it sets the floor aflame, and if it grabs you, it picks you up and cooks you in its head and stuff. So it really is a fight that even if you have figured it out, you have to play defensively, because you could just, if you're just overconfident, that's it. You can just be wiped out in an instant. So the enemies in general, I'd say, have a nice balance of warming up and, oh no, they're getting brutal and tough. And even as you progress through it, those lighter enemies, the game will put them in environments or situations where they do kick your butt as well. So look forward to that, everyone, because I've genuinely had a great time with it. So I've liked the balance of difficulty and the natural progression I felt that the DLC has had. But the bosses as well, they were so much fun to encounter, because I won't lie, when I came into the DLC, like I said, first few enemies, I was like, I'm going to attack you with my sword. And then the first hidden sort of boss I found, it did this attack with a crossbow, and my health just went completely down, and I died immediately.
Oh, wow.
Even because I went in thinking, like, I'm getting enemies in so little hits, I'm going to be fine. And even then, when I did hit this boss, it did like a standard amount of damage, and when it hit me back, it was, it really was taking a lot of my health off. So the bosses as well, I'd say they're served to be more end game sort of territory. I mean, I went into this DLC, I think I was a level 195 maybe, or something like that. And the fact that these bosses were still able to slap me, and when they did slap me, they hit me hard, just goes to show, this DLC expects you to have played a lot of Elden Ring before probably going into it. There was also another boss where it was a lot more quicker and a lot more agile, so I had to completely change my battle strategy from being, I'm just going to stick close to this guy and like defend a lot, to, oh my gosh, this guy's jumping all over the place. I have to time my heavy build strength character and make sure just to I get the hits in. And The only story boss I'm going to talk about is the dancing lion. And you would have seen him from the trailers, and he is just a beautiful fight. Just the way that he really does dance around the arena. His body's always twisting. It kind of reminded me of, you know, at pantomimes where they've got like the back end of the giant monster is one person.
Yes.
And then you can see kind of like that motion of things moving and twisting and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
This dancing lion fully goes into the sky and it twists around, and it's got different elemental attacks. So you're constantly like thrown with grey, blue, yellow from lightning and stuff. So again, that was a beautiful fight. And then they've also got the good old classic fights, like fighting a dragon. I was very happy.
Gotta have a dragon.
Gotta have a dragon. I was very happy when I just saw a little lake area and I could see a sleeping dragon. I was like, oh, I'm back. I'm back. He's gonna wake up and I'm gonna fight him.
Yeah, that's happening.
So the combat in general, it does provide a challenge, but I mean, at least I find it fun. But
Yeah.
I think it's a healthy, fun, good challenge. It's not, you can't go into it thinking, I'm great. It's still gonna be like, hey, remember what kind of game this is. We're gonna give you a challenge.
Yeah, well, no one wants it to be easy. I mean, that's the thing with these games. Everybody expects them to be hard, and you don't want it to be easy. Yeah, like you said, it's the balance. There'll be some enemies that you can easily mop up, and then some that require a lot more thought and a lot more patience and concentration, and I think you do want that balance. Like, there's nothing wrong with dying. You have to go into these games expecting to die, and it's the challenge of that and learning and doing better next time that's what they're all about. At least that's what I think anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely that. You go into these games with the experience of you're going to learn and have, you know, a good challenge ahead of you. And Shadow of the Erdtree definitely provides that. And then just one more little thing I want to say, because I realise I've gone on way too much talking about how much I love this DLC. But the music is just as great as you'd imagine it would be. The music is phenomenal. I even had it where I was just resting at a site of grace, and I thought, oh, I'm getting all cozy now. I could have easily have taken a nap just because of the beautiful music that was happening. And also, one thing I did forget to say is that there are items which are exclusive to the DLC. So you can get blessings and ash, which you can use at a site of grace. And what that does is, in the DLC only, it means that you can take damage better for yourself, as well as the companions who you summon, and torrent your spectral steeds. So there are things also in the DLC that only the DLC provides, which I think is really cool. But just all in all, I think Shadow of the Erdtree is great fun. I'm loving it. It feels so good to be back into the Elden Ring void. I already feel like just when I'm exploring, I'm like, oh, I'm home. And it feels so good to be back home in Elden Ring land. So I'm loving it. I'm sure everyone will love it. I hope I haven't spoiled too much for everyone. I've tried to keep it like as spoiler-free as possible, but please enjoy this when it comes out, because it is fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'm sure everybody will, Rosie. I mean, Elden Ring's a very special game, and it sounds like they've absolutely nailed the DLC, so I'm very excited to get back and continue my Elden Ring journey, because it's just what a game. Thank you so much for playing and talking to us about Elden Ring. That's Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, which is out
the 21st of June.
On the 21st of June. We can almost touch it.
And is on PS4 and PS5, which is super exciting.
It is. So no excuse, Elden Ring players. Get your hands on Shadow of the Erdtree on the 21st of June. We're going to stop talking now. Please do leave us a comment in the comments below if you are going to be picking up the DLC, what you're most looking forward to about it. Do like this video if you liked it, and subscribe so you don't miss anything else from the world of PlayStation.
PlayStation